Hello and welcome. Today we're diving into a chapter from the book of Isaiah that gives us one of the most powerful contrasts you'll find anywhere in Scripture. We're talking about a breathtaking vision of world peace, immediately followed by a scathing verdict on human pride. It's a message of ultimate hope and, at the same time, an urgent warning. I mean, this is probably one of the most famous verses in the entire Bible. It's this beautiful, incredible promise of a future with no more war. That's the end goal, right? But to really get why this vision is so powerful, we first have to understand the messy, turbulent reality that Isaiah is about to confront head-on. So first up, Isaiah kicks things off with this absolutely glorious future. The prophecy opens with an incredible vision where the house of the Lord, the temple, becomes the spiritual center of the entire world, drawing every nation towards it. Now, the prophecy begins with this phrase, the last days. And it's easy for us to hear that and think, end of the world. But in the original Hebrew, it's a bit more nuanced. It really just means the time to come or the futurity of days. You got to think of it as a flexible term. The prophets used to point toward a really significant future era, usually the time of the Messiah, which importantly could have more than one fulfillment throughout history. And this timeline here gives us some really crucial context. You can just see the constant turmoil, right? Kingdoms fall, the temple gets destroyed, it gets rebuilt, and then it's magnificently reconstructed by Herod the Great. And that grand temple, standing right there during Christ's ministry, was seen by many as a fulfillment of Isaiah's prophecy for the latter days. Right before it, too, was completely destroyed in 70 AD. So, at the very heart of this incredible vision is a transformed Jerusalem. The Temple Mountain is spiritually, and you almost get the sense physically, lifted up above everything else. It becomes this global center for truth, where all the nations willingly come, saying to each other, hey, let us go up, so he can teach us his ways. And just as we're soaring with that beautiful vision, Isaiah just slams on the brakes, hard. He pivots from that glorious future to the corrupt, ugly reality of his own time. Because before that amazing future can be realized, the present has to be confronted. Centuries before Isaiah ever wrote this, the law given to Moses had these very specific instructions for Israel's future kings, and the message was crystal clear. Don't put your trust in military might, which was symbolized by horses, or in economic power, symbolized by silver and gold. Trust in God. And this command sets up a truly dramatic contrast. And wow, the contrast is stark. The law explicitly commanded, do not multiply horses, but what does Isaiah see? Their land is full of horses. The law warned, do not multiply silver and gold. Yet Isaiah looks around and sees a land full of treasures. Judah wasn't just slipping up. They were in open, flagrant violation of God's command. So why had God forsaken them? Isaiah lays out the charges one by one. They were filling their culture with foreign customs, they were relying on fortune tellers, making forbidden alliances with other nations. But the most damning charge of all? The land was full of idols, and everyone from the poorest person to the most powerful leader was bowing down to them. All of this corruption, it's building to a climax, an inevitable consequence that Isaiah calls the day of the Lord. And listen, this isn't just about some far-off final apocalypse. The day of the Lord is any time in history when God intervenes directly to execute judgment. So the invasions by Assyria and later Babylon and even later Rome, all of those were seen as a day of the Lord. It's a day of reckoning for human pride, whenever and wherever it happens. So now, Isaiah unleashes this rhythmic, almost poetic list of everything that's about to be brought low. And the key here is that this isn't random punishment. God is systematically targeting the very symbols of Judah's self-reliance and its pride. He starts with nature. Those tall, proud cedars of Lebanon, they represented their princes and nobles. The strong oaks of Bashan, well, that symbolized the arrogant people themselves. And the high mountains they would run to for safety? Judgment was going to fall on them too, showing that no natural refuge could possibly save them. Then, he moves to the things they built with their own hands. Their high towers and fortified walls, totally useless. The famous ships of Tarshish, which represented global trade, immense wealth, and even a way to escape from trouble, they too would face judgment. There was no running from this. Even their pleasant pictures, their luxury items and treasured art would all be lost. So, all of this leads to the final verdict, and it circles right back to the chapter's core theme, the absolute, inevitable downfall of human pride. Isaiah uses this really clever literary structure here, kind of like a set of bookends. Notice how the warning in verse 11 that haughtiness will be bowed down is repeated almost exactly in verse 17, and the command to hide in the rocks is mirrored as well. This repetition is totally intentional. It's designed to force us to focus on that central, inescapable message: human pride will be humbled. And this right here, this is the ultimate picture of failure. In that day of judgment, as people are hiding in dark caves, they'll finally realize their precious, expensive idols are completely worthless, and they'll literally throw them to the moles and the bats, blind creatures that live in darkness. The very things they once worshipped are just discarded in the dirt, proving how utterly powerless they always were. And the whole prophecy builds to this final powerful command: cease ye from man. In other words, stop trusting in mortal, fragile human beings. Why? Because our life is as flimsy as the very breath in our nostrils, a breath that God gives and that God can take away in an instant. In the face of divine majesty, the prophet basically asks, really? How can mere mortals be our ultimate security? And that leaves us with a really piercing question for our own time, doesn't it? Isaiah condemned trusting in high towers, strong walls, and wealthy ships. So in our modern world of incredible technological, military, and financial power, what are the modern equivalents? What are the towers and ships that we trust in for our security and pride today? Maybe a little more than we should.